Um, or I'm trying to edit my text. Man, they had irritated me so bad with that. I was like, I don't know what convinced me to update my phone, but every time I do it, it's always like a regret. Every single time. I know. I forgot to cut my mic on. It's like a really bad habit, if you ask me. Um, we left off with Rocco. This morning, I woke up feeling like money. I jumped up, put on my Gucci, got my hat. What else? Got my bag. What else? Got my. Let me go. Let me go back to the text. Oh my goodness, I have to go back and edit it. I didn't put chapter 9, what page we was on or anything like that. I'll have to go back and edit that. We're gonna finish chapter 9. I'm gonna close. Well, I think I put chapter 9 and chapter 10 in this title, but I'll end this one, do a new live for chapter 10, plus the epilogue. I believe we should be able to get through. It's an epilogue, ain't it? Yeah, it's a little 3-page, 2-page. Okay, 2, 3. Um, he got a sources page, acknowledgments. Ian Doley, Kathy, Ian Doley, co-writer. The Essential History of Women in Hip Hop. Baby girl, better known as Aaliyah, and the co-author of Eve's memoir, Who's That Girl, and Lil' Kim's forthcoming memoir, The Queen Bee. Kathy is a professor of music business at New York University and lives in the New York metropolitan area. She's a critically acclaimed, award-winning journalist and author of God Save the Queens, The Essential History of Women in Hip Hop. I read it out of context. Let's start back with the quote from Rocco. Because I had went to bed and I was laying down and I was like, dang, I should have quoted his little song. He do got that This Morning song, and whew. When you trying to get up in the morning, you trying to get your day started, and you hit that Rocco, that's one of them songs that'll really get you going. I think Rick Ross got one too. Not the Everyday I'm Hustling one. These Can't Hold Me Back, that one. When Gucci went to jail, me and him weren't really seeing eye to eye. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, that ain't my boy. He's not himself right now. I could see it in his eyes that something wasn't right. I know me and him are better than that, so I couldn't hold a grudge against him. A lot of people saw what was going on Twitter when I would go on the radio to promote my music, and they asked me what was going on with Gucci. All I could say was, man, just pray for my boy. That was a quote from Rocco. Healing. This is a noun. The definition. The process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. Healing. I've come to know a lot of people in the music business over the years. So I came up with others I met along the way. And I don't call too many people my friends or my buddies. I can be cool with people, record songs together, get money, but friendship, real friendship, that's a different story. Rocco is my friend. We met at a studio years back and have stayed friends ever since. We made a lot of music together over the years too. When I think about, when I think back about Rocco's character as a person, I know he's solid. I remember one time I was spiraling at the club. My brain wasn't doing its best. And when that happens, my energy peaks and I just start doing erratic things to bring attention to myself. I started handing all sorts of ish out to people at the club. This wasn't rare when my brain was misfiring. Any club night could become a charity auction if I was in enough of a fog. One night was particularly too much. I gave out jewelry, I gave out money. You would think that it was Christmas, but it wasn't. It could have been just a regular weekday or weekend, and I was just pouring my belongings out onto the people. And this was to strangers and friends. I might have handed out close to $30,000 in cash, in addition to whatever else I was liquidating. Those friends I handed ish off to never gave it back to me, even though they knew damn well I wasn't in the right mind when they took it. But Rocco, I tried to hand him some money, and he flat out said to me, Gucci, I don't need your money. We can just chill here at the club. You don't gotta pay me. We're friends. I don't remember much during those times, but I remember Rocco's words. It takes a certain type of person to do that when everyone else is taking whatever they can grab from you. That's how I know Rocco and I were really cool. But for a while, we weren't. For over 10 years, I wanted to talk to Rocco about the time period when we fell out. I wanted to backtrack, to write before the altercation. I wanted to have some kind of idea of what someone on the receiving end was observing without them knowing what was really going on behind the scenes of my mind. But in a way, I also wanted closure. I finally got it when I saw him face to face. I didn't want to say this on the phone, I told him. I didn't want someone else to say this. I wanted to look in your eyes and tell you face to face, I apologize for everything. I wasn't in my right mind. I know you're my real friend. Rocco said, I know, man. I would never hold that grudge against you. And after that, we were locked back in. I asked Rocco when he first knew I wasn't right. Quote, I knew as soon as I got the call that you went in on me on Twitter because we were just in Vegas together. He said, we were partying, we were laughing, we even flew back home together. We were cool. And then I got a call. Man, can you please call Gucci? During what is now one of my infamous Twitter rants, Rocco was among the targets. I said some pretty bad things about him, but it stemmed from one very specific moment that festered in the back of my mind. It's during my episodes that those feelings pop out the most. Like most unnecessary fallouts, this was about money. Rocco was right. We were in Las Vegas together before the Twitter incident. We were all partying in a hotel room that was under my day-to-day manager's name. It was me, Rocco, and some of his people, plus security. I can't remember who all was there now, but it was enough people and a lot of liquor. When I travel, I use a certain credit card that's in my day-to-day's name. I always pay the bill, but when it comes to the details of the spending, my name isn't on it. For obvious reasons, since any receipt can become a news headline. In my hotel rooms, I never use anything while I'm in there, since everything costs extra money. I don't get drinks from the minibar, no bottles of water, nothing. That's because I know it's gonna all get charged to the room. So when a $5,000 liquor charge showed up on her credit card, my manager knew something wasn't right. She called me up all mad and said, "Why is all this stuff charged to my credit card?" The first thought in my mind was that Rocco's people did that behind my back. I called his people and demanded my money. Are you just gonna assume? When I saw Rocco next in Miami, it felt like he was distant. I didn't like that because after his people spent my money in Vegas, why was he giving me a cold shoulder? Even when he pulled up to give me my money back, it wasn't in the way a friend would. To some people, it might sound petty, but to me, it was a respect issue. I was demanding respect when I should have just initiated a conversation. But at the time this was all happening, I didn't have the capacity to sort through anything, let alone a misunderstanding in Las Vegas. Because technically, right, you supposed to, child, look, put a sign up there or something, or, um, move it out the way or something. I'm like, or I mean, we're adults, so you just have to let everybody know. Excuse me, we're not drinking, touching, none of that. But then again, I guess I know how it is, when y'all be drinking and stuff and then it run out and, the convenience of it being there. Um, so, effective communication. That's all. I love effective communication, child. I would have. But what you said on Twitter about him, honey, several months later, I was back in a bad way. I was anxious every single day. My mind was in the knot. And so I thought everyone was out to get me. That's when I started going over the list of people who tried me in the recent past. Here we go. My brain kept all the receipts, or at least my interpretation of them. Suddenly, the memories of Vegas came crashing into my mind. Why were they trying you like that? In a moment of rage, that's how the Twitter war begun. It only escalated from there. Rocco called me to try to talk it out, but I wasn't having it. My brain had already decided its fate. Goodness gracious. I had gotten a call. Rocco said he's going to be at your studio. When did he say that? I asked. About 30 minutes ago on Twitter. By the time I looked out my window, Rocco was there. So the conversation moved online, offline, and then into the streets. Rocco pulled up with a whole bunch of ABG crew members. In my head, it was going to be a damn shit, and I couldn't go out like no punk. Okay? I grabbed my pew, ran down the steps in my house shoes. We weren't fighting each other. We were fighting our egos at that point. Trying to get it together. So they yawning. And thankfully, it didn't turn into anything. I think deep down, neither of us would have ever hurt the other. And when I was in prison, my brother heard Rocco on the radio being interviewed. While I sat in prison thinking nobody was going to F with me ever again the way I treated people, here was Rocco asking everyone to pray for me. It gave me some hope that if my boy could forgive me and put prayers on me, then all wasn't really lost after all. I needed to hear that. But again, it's just a testament to the kind of man that Rocco is. Now that we were both many years removed from the altercation, it was the best time to air it out. From my standpoint, Rocco's team had ordered a bunch of room service and bottles of liquor and charged it all to the room. That made me upset. Nobody does that ish. We all know it's overpriced. That's the point of the hotel making it available. The convenience comes at a cost. When Rocco's people left that hotel room, they knew the bill wasn't coming with them. They also knew that the bill was coming to me and still moved accordingly. I didn't like that. And a decade later, that's what I told Rocco. You told them to buy all that liquor, Rocco reminded me. You were supposed to be doing a video shoot in the room, so you sent them to the store to buy some liquor. I had no recollection of ever asking anyone to do that. We even left the hotel together, Rocco said to me. We went to the airport together. He started telling me a whole story of me checking my bag, getting to the gate, all of these things that I didn't even know happened. Do you remember any of that? He asked. I didn't. When I told him he shunned me in Miami, he didn't remember it that way. It was all in my head. It took me years to explain this to Rocco, but I finally had to. I know you're my buddy, but in the months leading up to jail, I was going through some ish, I said. I'm taking accountability here. You did nothing wrong in that situation, period. I was reading stuff wrong because in my mind, everybody was out to get me. Telling this all to Rocco felt like a purge. It was stress, drugs, all of them cases, artists beefing and leaving. My mind was mashed out. It felt like my mind was injured and playing tricks on me. He just listened to me. I know it hurt him to hear his buddies speaking about everything he'd gone through, but the silver lining of it all was that I was better. And this was in the past. I'm just happy he forgave me. Rocco had always shown me grace while I was dealing with things. But what I did on Twitter and my demand for that money had me feeling awful. For years and years, though, I had it in my mind that there were people in Vegas who were trying to spend my money, which in and of itself was a sore spot with me. Knowing that it could have destroyed a friendship makes it all seem so silly. But at the time, my mind was putting together whatever stories it wanted to, and I was just reacting accordingly. This is what I've learned about my mental health. When it was at its worst, I have pockets of time where I remember nothing. And sometimes the only indicator of what might have happened is through a receipt, a text, or a friend with the recap. I'll also read incidents wrong, which can lead to really messy situations. And that's exactly what happened with Rocco. I'm lucky, though, because I have a real friend in him who didn't let my temporary moments of mental weakness become a permanent issue between us. Guys like Rocco are rare, but I'm glad I have one in my corner. All of these people called me after that incident. He said, it caught me off guard. And yeah, it had me feeling away. But my boy knows that at the end of the day, I'm going to go to war with a million by myself with him. Rocco. This morning, wake up. I walked over to the leather couch in the studio and shook it a little to do the job that my yelling wasn't accomplishing. You got to stop drinking all that lean, man. You've got songs to record. Young Thug wasn't even 21 when I first met him. Child, I did not know Lamar was making a cameo in the book. Oh my goodness. I just needed him to wake the F up. Hold on, let me see. I knew he had the talent and I knew his voice was something unique. I just needed him to wake the F up. The irony was that I was full of lean, my damn self. Only difference was my brain couldn't cut off. And this kid right here had a career to start. Mine was already in full swing. With me, it was a matter of do as I say and not as I do. I could be tearing at the seams, but I will always look out for my artist and what they need. My personal struggles couldn't and shouldn't have anything to do with my professional career, but many times they overlapped. I had to come to terms with that eventually, especially since people always need someone to blame. For a long time, I was an easy target. One of the things that I am the proudest of is my ear for talent. When my senses are their sharpest, I can spot a star a mile away. It's just this feeling that I have. And for the most part, I've been right about them all. A lot of times in my past, other people have taken credit for the artist that I've discovered. You'd be surprised how many people got on the radio because Gucci helped them make it there. Part of me feels like it's because of the time period in my life when I did some of my best artist discoveries. I was falling apart publicly. When you're at your worst, yet still finding talent, 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 talent. I think it's talent. Yet, comma, still finding talent like you're at your best. It's easy for others who might look more put together to claim the credit that you don't have the energy to take. And that's when people would walk away. Their careers would take off, and I was just a stop on the journey and not seen as the starting point. Maybe I didn't look like the safest bet, but watching artists I discovered signed to other people had me just wanting to check out of signing people entirely. It was disrespect, and in so many ways, it was sabotaging what I was trying to build. A lot of artists that I helped grow chose not to grow with me after that. So I had to cut them off. I wasn't going to coach you on the next steps in your career only for you to take that knowledge and apply it elsewhere. I wasn't going to be seen as some unk who tried to get you on the right path only to be discredited. That's not how the game works. I couldn't move forward with them when they didn't want to move forward with me anyway. A split is a split. And I knew all too well what it was like to be taken advantage of. How it felt to wake up and have my belongings robbed because people saw I wasn't in a healthy state and decided to go shopping at my expense. Regardless of what I was doing to my own body with drugs or what my brain was doing beyond my control, it didn't give anyone a right to take from me. So I didn't want to do that to my artist. Sometimes I wonder if this was my karma from taking from strangers. But I didn't show up to their house the next day asking to jump on a song with them either. The thievery comes in all forms. Sometimes you're robbed of money. Sometimes you're robbed of opportunities. I'm just trying to figure out if I want to quote that. I like that. But I don't think my artist really understood what was happening with me during the worst times in my life prior to turning it all around. And even afterward, there was a ripple effect. I am going to give myself a quote. We are on chapter 9. We are on page 211. Sometimes you're robbed of money. Sometimes you're robbed opportunities. End quote. Oh, today Thursday. I was like, I was like, wait, excuse me. And today is Friday. I'm like, I know. Marjorie Taylor, what happened? Forces a play. Oh my goodness. What was she making? Oh my god. Um, Sean, you know how it is when I have to come on here, honey. It never fails. I come to do a quote as soon as I get on. That's what I love about going live. I don't be scrolling on YouTube no more. I don't even be scrolling no more. See? I've learned to be productive. I like that quote though. Thievery comes in all forms. Sometimes you're robbed of money. Sometimes you're robbed of opportunities. But I don't think my artist really understood what was happening with me during the worst times of my life, prior to turning it all around. And even afterward, there was a ripple effect. The year 2013 was a breaking point in my life in so many ways. Yet it was also the start of something big that I was trying to build. P had told me that I was in Atlanta too much. He sensed things were getting intense for me, where I was too heavy in the streets and that I needed to get back on the road. I decided to restart my label. The first person I signed before I signed the Migos, before I signed Thug, before I started making up with Young Dolph and Pee Wee Longway was Young Scooter, R.I.P. R.I.P. P told me one day, hey, have you heard that new song, Columbia? I said, nah. He said, it's by this, he said, it's by that artist, Young Scooter. I was at the clubs, but not a lot at that time. P was in there more and knew that song was circulating. Little did I know, it was taking over the city. I'd had a feature with Young Scooter before, but I had features with a lot of people. I didn't know his song was getting that much traction. I wanted to sign him. I reached out to Scooter and we became friends. I still had Brick Squad. I still had Waka, but I wanted to start signing more artists and make a whole new label. I was staying in the penthouse at the 12 in Atlantic Station when Scooter and I had our meeting. I wasn't in a good place with Atlantic, but I was still ready to bring artists in. I told Scooter, this is the deal. I'm going to sign you and I'm going to put up all the money. I'm going to advance you some money. I'll pay for the videos, pay for everything. And we're going to put out tapes. I'm going to do a tape with you. I walked up to Scooter and said, what did you say about, oh, wait, did I? Oh, shit. Hold on. I'm going to do it. I had skipped it. 2 or 3 weeks after we signed the deal, Scooter got kicked out of his house by his girl. He was standing outside Atlantic Station with all of his clothes in garbage bags. He was my artist, so I moved him in with me at Atlantic Station. We were basically roommates, but Scooter was also my friend. His little boy would come over and stay there with us. And on Thanksgiving, I brought him to my mama's house. I even picked up my little boy and had him with us sometimes because to me, this was not only my artist, but this was my real friend. We put out tapes and albums, and Scooter's name was buzzing even more. I funded it all. To be honest, though, the success of Scooter is what made all of the other artists want to sign with me. They saw how we were putting on for the city. They saw us stunting with the jewelry, the money, the whole package was complete. From there, I signed Migos, Young Thug, Pee Wee Longway, and my other rappers and producers. About a year later in 2014, I ended up in prison after that string of terrible episodes. Because of that, Scooter wanted to sign with another label. He even had his lawyer come to see me in prison, saying we needed to work out this exit strategy and the contract details involved. Meanwhile, before I even got sentenced, Scooter was walking around saying I wasn't letting him out of the contract. And if I didn't let him off, he knew where my baby mama stayed. I will let any artist out of their contract. So none of that was necessary. I just always made sure the terms and conditions were on point. I'm not the kind of CEO who sits behind a desk and doesn't rap. I have my own music career and my own legacy. So by my own math, I know that I can try to break an artist, make whatever money I can for myself and for them. And if it's not working on either end, we part ways. I know how to push forward. I've stumbled enough times to get back up. And I would rather we go our separate ways than have this bad blood between us, where not enough was happening and an artist later says that I effed up their career. I can take accountability where I committed a crime, had to do my prison sentence, and the artist wants to leave. Is it effed up? A little, but I can understand the concern. So for me, you want to leave? Leave. Let's just make the business part a clean break. But what Scooter had said about my baby mama stuck in my mind. I couldn't believe how I took this dude to my mama's house, gave him a place to stay when his girl threw him out, and paid for his whole career. He didn't pay me shit. And now he was making threats about my baby mama and my little boy. It was a slap in the face. I didn't really think he would follow through with those threats, but it hurt me. It's like, damn, it ain't even that serious. But with my mind, those feelings bubble up inside me and they stay there. Once I got out of prison in 2016, Future and I planned an EP together called Free Bricks 2K16, Zone 6 edition. Future was close with young Scooter, so when I got to the studio to record, Scooter was there. I had never addressed what he said about my son, and the studio didn't seem like the place to do that. So I played it cool. Scooter never knew that I knew what he said. I wasn't going to tell him how I heard it either. But when the time was right, Scooter was going to know that I knew. I didn't pick the right time, exactly. 4 years later, during COVID, I was walking through the airport with my mask on. This was right when I was heading back from Los Angeles after getting my teeth done. So I was having a negative response to the anesthesia, and my episodes started firing up. I saw Scooter and a mutual friend of ours, and my brain kicked into overdrive. That Scooter over there, you never confronted him about what he said about your little boy. You a hoe if you don't do nothing. If you don't do something. Tick, tick, tick. I walked up to Scooter and said, "What did you say about my son?" And I started trying to fight him. Scooter didn't even know it was me because I had my mask on. Everyone was looking at us. The police came and put me in handcuffs. When I finally came out of that episode back home, I checked my messages to see texts like, "Did you try and fight young Scooter at the airport?" The embarrassment flooded in. I couldn't believe I'd done that in front of so many people, especially when I thought my mind was better. For me, it was a culmination of the anger and the hurt that I had experienced along the way with lots of artists. Scooter was on the receiving end of all of that, since in my brain, he threatened my child, and that was the last straw. It's exhausting to be seen as a gift and a curse when it comes to working with artists. At the same time, it's so hard watching artists that I've both known and worked with pass away. When I lost Scar, what followed felt like a bad movie. I paid for his funeral, where family and friends filmed videos wearing his jewelry after he died. Then they came out and publicly then they came out publicly and said Gucci didn't pay for his funeral when I did. They had to come back around once I provided the receipts. I couldn't even grieve properly when people were speaking out against me, as if I didn't try my hardest when Scar was here to keep him here. Goodness gracious. Try my hardest when Scar was here to keep him here. I did whatever I could to help Scar, even after he left this planet. For people to say that I didn't make the mourning process even worse, for people to say that I didn't, where's your commas at? Goodness gracious, let me get me some water because I'm running through sentences. I believe in my last page, Lord, please. Okay. Well, we were trying to figure out where were the emotions at. You just kind of ran through them in the first chapter. I remember. I'm like, where's the emotions? For people to say that I didn't made the mourning process even worse. Then they came and tried to blame me for his addiction. They also took a toll. That also took a toll on my mental health. But thankfully, by then, I had better processes in place to deal with it. Enchanting's death was another situation that really had me feeling effed up. Her family blamed me too. That's when the headlines came back around. Signing with Gucci Mane is a curse. His artists either pass away or go to prison. He doesn't have good leadership. He's bad luck. That was the narrative. When Chant died, it was almost like her death wasn't adequately covered because they were just too damn busy blaming me. I never get to speak on it. I take the high road. I don't like being disrespectful, especially when it comes to death. These are grieving families, and I am aware of that. Chant was my friend and my artist, but I can't begin to relate to what her mama was going through. But why was I, again, the target and no one else? Not the family, the boyfriends, the social groups, nobody else, just me. And there are people around these artists all the time seeing what's going on. They're the ones that may be seeing them taking the drugs. Hell, they might be taking the drugs along with them. I first met Chant through the producer, Jay White. Jay White did it. He was already making big records like Cardi B, with Cardi B. He was already making big records with Cardi B, like Bodak Yellow. And I like it. He did Meg the Stallions remix for Savage. And he even did the song I got on with Lotto called Muwa. He told me about this artist out of Fort Worth named Enchanting and how I should sign her. I signed Chant basically off the strength of Jay White's cosign. Chant was one of the nicest kids to be around. She sang, she rapped, she was so talented. She fit in well with our crew. Everybody loved Chant. She was so cool, but she used to keep a big old pistol on her. I used to joke that she was a female Pooh Shiesty. The problem was, after putting in so much effort, Chant wasn't getting much traction. It was June 12, 2023, when I had to have a real talk with her. I said, "You're a superstar, and I love working with you. But we really ain't making no money. We really ain't making any money. So it's probably time that we part ways. I can't keep spending money and I'm not making any money. I know people overused to saying it ain't personal, it's business, but in this case, I promise you, it was just that." When it came to the addiction, I had no idea what Chant was doing, what Chant was going through. I knew she smoked weed, but I didn't know anything else. With Scar, there were signs. But with Chant, I didn't see any of that. Then again, my artists all know that I'm not about that stuff. I don't want to be around any of it. I don't pop pills anymore, so I won't be around the pills. And I don't snort powder, so I'm not around people who snort powder. I try not to judge, but I also know that a lot is hidden from me. And in Chant's case, I guess she really hid it well. She and Scar were very close, like brother and sister. So when he passed in 2022, I know she took it hard. But what I didn't know was that they were using drugs together when they were signed to me. This wasn't a matter of her using drugs once she lost her label deal. She was using back when I was working with her and was very good at keeping it from me. After Scar passed, it could have been a turning point for Chant, but sadly it wasn't. Chant did an interview before she passed where she was warning people about pills. She was telling them to be careful, how one pill can harm you fatally. She mentioned that was what happened with Scar. And then the same thing happened to her. Chant used to say to me, I want 1 million followers. I told her, you should focus on 1 million streams. Both Chant and Scar hadn't reached 1 million followers before they passed. Yet afterward, they both got 1 million. But now, they're not here to see it. It makes me sad to think about. I also think about my friend, Rich Homie Quan. I met him right when I was just restarting my label and I really wanted to sign him. But he was already signed. Over the years, we stayed cool. I didn't know he was addicted like that either. Toward the end, Quan fell on some pretty hard times. The music industry can really poison you with pressure and the need to make more money. So the self-medicating gets even worse. The music stops hitting and the people lose interest. Then the cycle of addiction continues because now you're nursing a bruised ego on top of it all. It seemed like everyone had turned their backs on Quan. And then he passed away. Sure enough, his music started charting again. Why is it that sometimes you only get the love when you're not around to experience it? Maybe that was my real aha moment. I knew very clearly what looked like rock bottom to me. I was sitting in a prison cell in Terre Haute. Terre Haute. I didn't want my story to end over a pill or a bullet. I just didn't want that to be my story. My life had to be valued by heartbeats and not dollar signs. You know the saying, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Well, the 12 judged me, and while in prison, I defied the odds of being carried by 6. I did it, and all I ever wanted was to show people that they could do it too. Now, I'm no saint, but as I changed my life, I led by example. I'd like to say I was a good role model for my artist early on. I didn't look like the best leader, but later I know I tried my best. Losing Scar and Chant to drugs and temporarily losing Pooh Shiesty and Fujiano to prison makes me feel horrible. But constantly making me shoulder the blame isn't fair. There has to be some accountability among the people around them, with the community, with every part of the environment. The blame can't just be shifted on me. I brought the curse on my own life. So why would I ever want to curse someone else's? It's a painful burden to carry when everyone wants to point the finger at you, but forgets to point it back at themselves. And scene 50. I'm gonna end. Let me edit this stream information. I'm just gonna put chapter 9. And then we'll come back. We'll come back for chapter 10 and